All right, guys, we're going to get started here. I want to thank all you guys for hopping on tonight. If this is the first call you've been part of or the second, third, or fourth, appreciate all your time that you guys are putting in tonight. We're going to kick off with Alex. He's just going to go over the fee structure for the Americas for this season.
Hey, guys, how's everybody doing? Thanks for joining us. I know some of you guys are probably looking at a bunch of snow outside, so baseball might be far from your mind, but just wanted to talk for a second about the fee structure in the America East here. We're in a situation where I'm having some issues with Arbiter just getting the fees to populate and getting some per diems to populate. We are at 184 for the non-conference 9-inning games plus round-trip mileage at the IRS rate of, I think, 54.5 cents, plus tolls if that's applicable. For the conference and non-conference weekends, we'll be looking at, I believe, a rate of somewhere $5.25 or so. And then we'll have also per diem for hotel somewhere in the range of 115. I know some are 95, some are 125, depending on what city it is. We'll have round-trip mileage. And in some cases, if you need a second night of per diem because you had to travel in on a Friday night for a Saturday-Sunday series, then you'll get Friday and Saturday hotel. Round-trip mileage and your tolls for the New York, New Jersey tolls there for your metro tolls. When everything is all squared away for your fees, I will send out an email, and then if you have any questions or you think something's calculated incorrectly, certainly you can let me know. I know that for the America East, we are in a one-year cycle on fees, just in terms of the timing of United being named the coordinators and everything in terms of the budgets for the schools. So that is a one-year fee structure, and then looking at trying to figure out and negotiate a longer-term fee structure starting in 2019. So it's a 1 year, and Chris and I will be talking to the conference about what they're going to be doing going forward. So maybe just a bridge to the next cycle. So that's really all I have. Chris, anything on fees?
Yeah, one thing I can tell you guys, and speaking with Frank at the America East, he certainly wants to ensure that he keeps a very strong staff. He's been very happy with the RPI ranking of their conference in comparison to other conferences around. He wants to ensure that he has the best umpires working for him. And like Alex said, it was just the timing of everything going down this past year where we weren't able to do something more long-term. But there certainly is a commitment from Frank in the America East to work on fees and make sure you guys are getting a fair fee for what you guys are doing and for the umpires that are working there. So I feel good about that with the America East and their commitment to us and to our organization. So I think we're in a good place with them, and I'm looking forward to the future with the America East. So, guys, to kick it off here, I think this is a really good forum for us. I'm really excited about setting these phone calls up, and we had a lot of positive feedback from the first one we've done before. Certainly, I think in the past there's been situations where we just don't have a lot of information that's handed out and talked about throughout the season. I know I felt that way as an umpire too. So this is just one way to make sure that we're able to get stuff to you immediately. There's going to be information coming in from the conferences to me directly that I'm going to want to distribute to you guys. And that being said, if you guys have any issues when you guys are out there within the America East, just simple things like maybe hotel issues, locker rooms, anything that may come up, site coordinators, making sure that someone's there before and after the game, contacts, things like that logistically, certainly that I can communicate to the conference. This is a good forum to make sure that I have that information. The NCAA hands down a ton of information. I just was on a conference call today, which I'll talk about some of those things in a little while, as far as rule interpretations, new mechanics, issues that they're seeing out there. And right now we're in a pretty good place with our regional evaluators because they are sharing their evaluations and information with me, in turn able to distribute that out to you guys. So there's some trends and some things that they're seeing out there on the diamond that I'm going to talk about in a little bit, but certainly another thing that we can discuss and immediately throughout the season and right the ship if need be, or some positive things that we're doing well. Certainly these will not be negative phone calls. Really, any issues that may arise during the season, this is the platform to talk about and discuss it. So really excited about what we're doing with this, and I think that it's going to be a really positive thing for all of us involved. Okay. The way I envision this, and it's changed a bit, it's kind of an evolution, a work in progress, but I'm envisioning these staff phone calls every 2 weeks and the off week and email sent out to everybody. Now that could change. Clearly, if there's a situation or something we need to talk immediately about, then we could change the schedule up. But, I don't want to tie you guys up every single week. Just know that on the weeks that we don't have a phone call, there's going to be emails out to you guys, just, covering some things that may come up. And the way this was set up with all individual conferences, I think I'd rather do this moving forward just because so many of you guys work in multiple conferences. All umpires call in on one phone call, and we could probably split that between or offer 2 separate days. Obviously, with guys traveling, working midweek, jobs, families, and I know it's sometimes difficult to commit to one day. So we could possibly do a Tuesday and a Wednesday. You could call into either one. And we can just go down the line in any issues that are just across the board for all umpires, and anything specific to any conferences can be covered as a whole staff. I think it'll work a lot better for all of us. Crew chiefs, I am going to want to have a brief crew chief conference call every week. So any umpire who's assigned a crew chief for the upcoming weekend, we will have a call-in conference call for that, just to cover anything that we need to go over going into that weekend series. That being said, guys, crew chiefs in the Arbiter, I still have to go through and review them. So those aren't set in stone right now. I have to take a look at them. So there might be some changes there, but hopefully within the next few days to a week, I'll take a look at all those. So we'll have the fees set up and the crew chiefs all ready and set to go as we get closer. All right, guys, I want to talk briefly about the evaluation process and, how it relates to you guys. Certainly I want to get back into the practice of crew chiefs doing their crew chief evaluations. I want to hear about what happens during the weekends. Gone are the days, and I'm guilty of it too, guys, where I'd send an email with scores and saying no issues. Well, something had to happen. So positives, if everything's a positive, then give me good positives, good rotations, good things, good calls, good plate jobs. I want that information. Conversely, obviously, if there's any issues, then that's the email that I think a lot of us have been used to writing. But make sure that we go through and fill out that evaluation, the crew chief, right in the Arbiter, okay? And if there's anything in addition to that, you can certainly reach out to me or email me aside from that. Guys, one thing I want also to be done is peer evaluations. And this isn't certainly an opportunity for guys to dump on other guys. Let's face it, there's things that we talked about in the locker room, things that we could do better as a crew, things we missed, things we can improve upon. So those are really the kind of things that I want you guys to put in those peer evaluations. If anyone thinks, and I don't think that I really am going to have too many umpires, if any, hopefully not, that are looking to put guys down, because that's not the kind of umpire I want to work for us. But I'll be able to tell if it's just some guy just ratting on somebody or dumping on them. That's not what we're looking for here. It's positive things that we can work on to improve for all of us. Okay. Next thing I want to touch on is the tournament selection process. And in the whole process of securing these conferences and speaking to coaches and administrators, it's become very apparent that the coaches have felt in the past that they don't really have or haven't had a lot of say in their umpire selections to the conference tournament. And that doesn't mean that they've been unhappy with the umpires, but they just felt like they have not had a say. Guys have just been assigned. Well, I have changed that. I've created a procedure now where the coaches are going to be a part of it. And I don't think that's a bad thing, guys. I think that our coaches respect the jobs you do, and it's certainly not a situation where you can just be blackballed because a coach doesn't like you. Ultimately, it'll be my decision, but it is fair, and I'm going to give the respect to the coaches and listen to their opinions on guys. And certainly if there's guys they want in their tournament that I can give them, I will. But that's not the only avenue of evaluation. That's not the only piece of information that I'm going to gather and put together for that selection. Certainly, like we just spoke about, the crew chief evaluations are going to play a key role in that. My observations, I'll be out there, guys, and I hope to see all of you guys. It's going to be difficult, but certainly I'm going to be out on the road evaluating as well. The observers that the conferences have hired will be out there. So once again, that's 3 or 4 different evaluations that we'll have on people. And the other exciting thing that's going on right now, guys, is our regional NCAA evaluators are sharing information with us. I spoke with Bill McCallum today, and certainly we have a really good relationship and sharing of information. And the NCAA is made it possible for Bill, Jim Jackson, guys like that, to go out there and share their evaluations with the coordinators. And in turn, now I can share that information with you guys. And it's really a good open dialogue that has been entered into right now, and in this great direction where we can learn and improve upon things that they see out there. And I'm going to touch on some of the things in their observations here in a little bit. All right, next, guys, I want to talk to you about Danny Miller and what he's doing with videos. Unfortunately, we live in an area where we don't have a lot of our games, if any, on television. So we're always searching and trying to find videos and ways to highlight the good things you guys are doing out there, and also highlight things that we can improve upon. So Danny will speak here in a minute, but guys, if you guys have any good, interesting plays or things that happen in your game that you want to share, then please contact Danny Miller at dmiller@umpires.org, and we're going to do our best, and Danny will explain to you here in a second and tell you how he's going to get this information out there and what we're going to do with it. So, Danny, go ahead. It's your floor, buddy.
Hi, guys. Thanks for joining us, especially those who have been on multiple calls. I will be brief. Ideally, the only way for this to work, where we put out these video play review segments, ideally, I would like to put them out at least once a week. The reality is that's probably not going to happen every week throughout the year. So my goal will be to have at least 2 of these segments produced a month. I'm confident we can make that happen. It will not only benefit us in the short term, but the more plays that we can get, the more segments that we can produce, the closer we are to building what we really ideally want to build, and that's a library that pretty much all of our umpires will have access to. And all of that does is extend the learning process, which I think all of you on the phone are pretty much aware. We've been really focused on that since the very beginning. In terms of the process, it'll be collaborative, like I mentioned. From your point of view, everybody on the phone, in terms of the umpires, if you can just send me an email like Chris said, if there's a play, if there's a cool rotation where it results in, an interesting play, a well-officiated play, anything that people can learn from, just shoot me an email. Let me know the date of the game, the team's playing, and the inning, whatever the circumstance. I will then take it from there and do my best to access the video. Now, for all of your guys' edification, Chris always talks about the efforts that I put in. But like I said, and I really want to underscore this, it's a collaborative process. I just put all the elements together and I edit it. But the really cool thing that we have here at United are the number of people, whether it's Chris himself, Alex, Brian DeBrouwer, and any number of guys that have these brilliant mechanic minds. What they will do is they will take the video, they will obviously determine whether it's something we want to put out or not. But the time-consuming part is writing the script. I know that probably doesn't sound like it takes much time, but it actually does. And I know all of the guys that I just mentioned, they take that role very seriously, and it's time-consuming. So I just wanted to make sure everybody understood that process. Once it's written, whether it's one of the guys that wrote it or myself, it'll be voiced over. And then what I want to do is make it as easy as possible for you guys to have access to the video. So it'll be on multiple platforms. I'll post it on Facebook. I'll post it on Twitter. I'll post it on the United.org's website. I spoke to Jim Clayton last night, and he is going to create a special section on the website. So ideally, once the year is over, hopefully we have, 8 to 10 at least, give or take. And then in the following years, we'll just keep building the library, like I said. The first segment will be released next week. I received a couple plays from last weekend, just as an example of the plays that will be represented. I have a backswing interference play that was officiated properly. I have 2 playbacks at first base. One was on a batter runner taking a turn towards second base. The other, which was related, is related to mechanics. It was a well-officiated play where there was a back play on the batter runner at first base following a base hit with runners on, and the umpire crew had the play bracketed, so it looked really good. I guess in closing, just to reiterate, this can be a really valuable tool, and I appreciate any help that you guys can provide. And one last little comment. I know some of you guys have asked me this in the past. If you guys identify photo galleries where there's pictures of you guys on the field, just let me know. Shoot me a text message, send me an email, let me know where the pictures might be, or just send me the pictures yourself, and I have no problem posting them on the Facebook page. Thanks for your time. I'll see you guys over the year.
Thanks, Danny. Guys, I can't tell you, I'm sure a lot of you guys already know this, how lucky we are to have Danny doing what he does for us. This is a platform here where we can review some of those videos maybe in a week where we don't have a lot to talk about, where you guys haven't thrown anybody out and things are going well. I mean, a great opportunity to cover some of those things. But also, Danny and I were talking about this today. Guys, there's umpires all over the country that are viewing our Facebook page, watching our videos, going on the website. So it couldn't be a better opportunity to highlight what we're doing and the good things you guys are doing on the field. So please, if you have those situations, those good plays, the things, positive things that happen out there, let Danny know. Let's get it out there. All right, I'm going to touch on a bunch of things that was covered today in my NCAA conference call. First off, ejections, guys. And a lot of us haven't been on the field yet, but believe it or not, ejections are up 18% from last year. So, the NCAA has done a good job of creating suspensions and ways to handle situations. I can't stress enough getting our warnings in, doing the right thing, being the umpire, the calmer influence out there, diffusing these situations. But, whatever the NCAA has done to try to eliminate or curtail the amount of ejections that are happening, it's not working. So let's make sure that we're doing the right thing out there once we start our seasons, and we're not making it worse. We're not escalating these situations. Let's follow the script. And we're seeing most of those ejections are ball and strike warnings, and there's actually been a couple of fights already. So, if you guys remember what we saw in the NCAA clinic, the online clinic, the 2 videos about how to handle getting ball and strike warnings in, let's utilize that and make sure that we're doing the right thing. And it certainly makes the whole process for dealing with those ejection reports much easier for me when we do get those warnings in and handle it the right way. We've talked about before the timeline is after you have an ejection, to make sure you call me directly after the game. One thing that George talked about today is making sure those ejection reports are in within 8 hours of the ejection. So I'm sure there's a lot of times where that's the last thing in the world we probably want to do or we have a long drive home. But it's going to make this whole process much easier for me to get ahead of the situation. If I have that ejection report, I can review it before I speak to anybody from a conference or a coach, okay? So please, as much of a pain as it may be to do it late at night, or if you're on the road, do that report before you go out to dinner. Get it done so we can just start that process a bit earlier. And make sure that if we have an ejection that warrants a suspension, that we're letting somebody on that coaching staff or within that school know that there will be suspension. Hopefully we know the suspension, the amount, guys. It's all there in the book. It's been there for a couple of years. We should know those. But at least let them know that there's going to be a suspension that follows, and we need to alert them of that right away. Okay. I mentioned earlier the fact that we have our NCAA regional evaluators that are out there, and I've received a number of emails already early in the season with things that they are seeing out there and certain trends and things that they want to talk about. So I just want to go over some of that stuff. I think it's really useful for us to talk about as it relates to the beginning of our season. There's a lot of comments about guys not really having a presence on the field, guys walking, not hustling, and guys, that's just not acceptable. We're only out there for hopefully at most 3 hours, hopefully less. But if you can't put a strong, consistent hustle and effort into your game, then I think there's a bigger problem there. So let's make sure that we're working hard in between innings, in between pitches. Work your butts off for that whole 3 hours. That's why you're there, and that's what they want to see. Talking to coaches, talking to players. Guys, I understand you come out, you start the game, go to third base, coach shakes your hand, shortstop, third baseman, first base coach, I want to shake your hand, say hello. That's great. I want you guys to be friendly. I want you to be personable. I want you to be approachable. But we have to make sure that we find that fine line between being friendly and talking too much. And people are noticing. Okay, I don't think it's just the coaches or administrators, people in the stands. Everybody notices when you have an umpire out there that just wants to talk, and the impression is he's not engaged in the game. So let's make sure that we do our best in a professional way. Just keep that fraternization down to a minimum, okay? Guys that are wandering eyes in the crowd, making it look like they're not really wanting to be there. Guys, one thing to remember, I want you to work as hard as you would on a weekend midweek. That same level of effort and commitment, because that's one thing that coaches and players will notice, a guy that is just seemingly taking it off during the week. So work just as hard on that weekend series between two good teams as that midweek game. Okay. Keeping coaches in their coaches box. There's a trend across the country where coaches are just kind of wandering, or guys that are getting close to you. They're getting closer to the fair foul line or deeper. Okay, so once again, it's an impression thing. You keep them in their box. Nicely ask them to do so. It's a rule, and certainly we should be able to follow through with that. Okay. Plate umpires enforcing the 90-second rule. Guys, as a plate umpire, you certainly can control that yourself simply by making sure that you're speaking with the catchers, letting them know 5 pitches. They should know it by now, but hey, I always look at the catcher, say, hey, let's bring this one down. And as I do that, I look to that on deck bed or hold one finger up and say, that's one left. And once they throw that ball down, get them out there. We shouldn't have to ever really deal with a 90-second violation if, as a plate umpire, you're doing your job. And a lot of them that they're seeing early on in the season is just because the batters are not getting up there early enough. Okay, so let's make sure that we can work really hard on controlling that on-deck hitter in the beginning of an inning. That's real simple. I think most of us do it anyway. Okay. Some mechanics things that were covered today. Guys, steals at third base from the C position, and I think across the board, all the evaluators are seeing guys that are setting up way too deep in the C position. So remember, we want you to set up in a normal C like you would in a two-man game. And with that steal a third, if you're too deep, you're just not going to get the look that you want to, because even if you try and struggle to get to that 45, you're going to be looking at the backside of it. So set up in that normal C, make sure those first steps are to the 45, and that creates a better angle for that steal. One thing that came up that was very interesting today is a first base umpire with runners on first and second or bases loaded and a back pick situation from the catcher is umpires setting up way too deep and not taking positive post-pitch steps once the ball goes through the zone. I'm going to be honest with you guys. There's a lot of people across the country that do not believe in the post-pitch step theory that we teach and that a lot of us, hopefully all of us, are using in our games. And that's fine if they don't want to follow suit, if they don't believe in that. But we believe in it, and I have firsthand seen how taking those steps, those post-pitch steps, puts you in a better position, getting to that angle, having that runner slide directly at you, and you're not there late. So make sure we're setting up off the hip pocket of the first baseman and third baseman as well, guys. Let's make sure that we're doing it both, the back picks or anything around third base, okay? But it's an advantage that we should take care of. And if the rest of the country doesn't want to do it, that's fine. But we are the ones that are going to do the right thing, and we're the ones that are going to get those plays right more often than not because we're going to be in a better position to take those plays, okay? So just something to bear in mind as we start this season out here. As far as the rules that were covered, there was one rule interpretation that really is just a clarification that came out for your review. It's 9.1a, 9.1b in regards to pitchers pausing in their delivery. So I want you guys to make sure you go and review that, okay? Remembering that the pitcher in a windup can pause. You've seen a lot of the Asian pitchers in the major leagues that have come across have that pause, whether in their arms or their legs. That is legal, okay? One thing to also consider is in regards to a quick pitch, was talked about today, we want to make sure that the batter is ready and set. If he's ready and set, a pitcher can speed up his motion, okay, even though it's not his normal motion from the windup. It doesn't have to be consistent all of the time. But the key to this is if the batter is ready and set to hit. If the batter is not ready and set to hit, the pitcher speeds up his motion. That now becomes a quick pitch. Okay, so I thought that was really interesting and a good way for me, and I think for you guys to look at that situation, whether or not the pitcher is ready to hit. Now, in the set position, any pause or anything that's not associated with his normal delivery is the way that pitchers are now, or teams are now trying to circumvent the rule from last year, clearly defining whether you're in a windup or the set position. So there are ways that they're trying to work around that. One is by pausing and doing anything to basically catch the batter off guard. So in your mind, if you think the intent of the pitcher was to catch the batter off guard with anything he does in the set position, or to make it look where, or make the batter be confused as to whether or not the pitcher is in the windup or the set based on his motion, then we have to address that situation and call a balk. Okay, so. All right, guys, just going back to my notes, I think that's pretty much all I have for the evening. Just one thing across the country, like I said, with our regional evaluators, and I'm not sure if I touched on it earlier enough, but, it's a really good time now where I'm getting information that the NCAA and our evaluations have never come across. And guys that have worked postseason, whether it's conference tournaments or NCAA postseason, I know a lot of us have never, ever gained or been able to get any of those evaluations. I'm not saying that's going to change, but in season now, I'm going to be able to get information and evaluations from the Bill McCallums of the world when they go out and view umpires working games. And now I'm going to be able to pass that information along to you. So a lot of what I will talk about from some of these regional evaluations may not even apply to you guys or your games. It's across the country. But I think that we can use that information in those evals and seeing what guys are doing and trends across the country just to ensure that we're not making the same mistakes. Okay? Any brief questions while I have you guys on the line? If not, we'll we'll end the call for tonight. But if there's anything I can answer real quick, here's your opportunity. All right, guys. Well, that being said, once again, thank you for jumping on the line tonight. I'm very excited to be having these phone calls. I think that it's going to be very beneficial for all of us throughout the season. I think it's going to make our seasons go much smoother, and certainly, like I said earlier, anything that we can address early on immediately throughout the season rather than taking stock and changing things at the end, I think is a good thing. I think it'll make it better for all of us and certainly make us all more successful. So, guys, that's all I have for this evening. Let's pray that all the snow goes away and we can get out in the field. And I once again appreciate you guys calling in, and best of luck for the season. Guys, anything you need throughout the season, my phone is always with me. If you don't see me out there, feel free to call me or email me with anything. So that being said, thanks, guys, and good luck to you this season.